It's Maryland basketball game day.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland basketball has a game today at home against Mount St. Mary's. I hope a lot of you guys are able to go to the game because it is on BTN Plus. It's not on TV. You have to purchase it on BTN Plus. But I expect big things for the Terps this game and this season. I know we have talked about a lot of football, and I know a lot of Terp fans are honestly ready to move on to basketball season and are tired of the product that the football season has put on for who knows how long now, for a really long time, and are just excited for year two of the Kevin Willard era in College Park. And honestly, I agree with you in a lot of ways. I love the football team, and I love talking about the football team, but I'm ready to play some basketball. I need something else to take my mind off of the football team and the 4-game losing streak that we're in, and losing to Northwestern and losing to Illinois and losing, of course, to the big dogs in Penn State and Ohio State. I'm tired of watching a Maryland product lose games, but basketball, it's a little bit different than the football team, obviously. We're a basketball school. That's what we do. So I'm super happy, excited, whatever words you want to use, to get this year started today. And honestly, it crept up on me. I've been talking about football because there's been football games and stuff. It's hard not to talk about it. But, I mean, I've sprinkled in some basketball, but it crept up on us, and it's like, we have a game today. We gotta talk about Maryland basketball the entire time today. And we also have another game on Friday. So this week's going to be a big Maryland basketball podcast week. But overall, I expect huge things from the Terps this year. Like I said, year two Kevin Willard, I expect it only to get better. I think he has a better understanding of the program and the different layers. I think he continues to peel back the layers of the Maryland program. I think he has the fan base behind him, the boosters behind him. I think the players are really behind him. I think Kevin Willard is an awesome coach for the Maryland Terrapins to have, and I'm expecting him to become one of the better Maryland coaches. Really, I think he has potential to do it ever. What I'm seeing him do in recruiting early on, and what he did last year in his first season, and how he seems to connect with the players, Kevin Willard has a chance to do something special. But we're talking about this year. I expect another jump. Obviously, we had a really good year last year. It was a perfect first year under Willard and a perfect year for Maryland basketball, where we went 22-13, a very solid record in college basketball, and went 11-9 in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is challenging. It's not easy to get a winning record in the Big Ten. It's really not. I know teams that have made the tournament with losing records in the Big Ten. It's not easy to have a winning record in the Big Ten, but Maryland was able to do that last year. And we also were in the big dance. I can't wait for college basketball, March Madness, conference tournaments, big games. It's such an exciting season and time because just everything that goes with college basketball, especially when you actually have one team to cheer for and the team that's supposed to be good, there's just so many cool things that come along with that. But of course, we made March Madness last year as an 8th seed, and we won a game against West Virginia in March Madness. So we won a March Madness game. We made it to the big dance. We put on a Big Ten winning record. We got to 22 wins. Did some really good things last year, and that's a big reason why I have big expectations for this year, because we are better this year than last year. we return two of our best players, two guys that have a chance to be all Big Ten type of players in Julian Reese and Jameer Young. Jameer Young has a chance to be the Big Ten Player of the Year. Obviously, there's that big guy down at Purdue, but I think Reese also has a chance to be a Big Ten Player of the Year. So we have two guys that are candidates for Big Ten Player of the Year, Big Ten Player of the Year at point guard and at center/power forward, depending on what lineup is in Julian Reese. So you know that pick and roll late game with those two is going to be really good. But two really good guys that have the potential to be even All-Americans, have a chance to be two of the best players in the country. And when you start your team with that, with a really talented guard and a really talented big man, you're going in the right direction. And they're both back from last year. And then you can't forget about Dante Scott, a veteran player in that group, averaged 11 last year, all-around beast for the Terps, can do a little bit of everything, can shoot the ball. His shot has improved tremendously, spaces the floor, plays really good defense, can cover literally every single position. Dante Scott can cover 1 through 5. Maybe we don't want him covering the point guard, but if he got stuck on a point guard, he could be okay. He can also bang with the big mans down low. He can literally do everything for the Terps. A perfect complement to Reese and Jameer Young. Two more, Jameer Young, a little bit more flashy. Julian Reese finishes really well. Gets to the basket on pick and rolls. You can hit him in the post. He does some really good things down there. And then Dante Scott, tough guy, can score, can do everything, plays defense. And then you can't forget, we have a star-studded freshman class coming in. One of the best freshman class we've seen in a while at Maryland basketball. One of the best freshman class really ever at Maryland basketball. And there's two and three guys that we expect to do really big things, and two guys that are expected to start. But it's a good thing that they're starting because those guys are really talented, and that's why my expectation is so high. Deshaun Harris-Smith is one of the better Maryland recruits ever, the 4-star guard / wing, whatever you want to call him. He's supposed to start at the 2 guard this year, and he's one of the best recruits coming into the Big Ten, and I have huge expectations for Deshaun Harris-Smith, and I expect him to be able to carry those expectations, and he has a chance to be the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. So the reason expectations are so high this year for Maryland basketball is because we have two guys that could be the Big Ten Player of the Year and could be first-team All-Big Ten, second-team All-Big Ten guys. And then we have a guy at the shooting guard spot or a small forward spot in Deshaun Harris-Smith. That's one of the best players coming out of high school basketball, Mr. Basketball in the state of Virginia, and he has a chance to be the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. So that's why I have such high expectations. It's really centered around those 3 and 4 players, if you include Dante Scott. And then, of course, Jamie Kaiser was a huge recruit, a 4-star recruit too, and he can shoot the lights out, and he brings something exactly what the Terps needed, a shooter to complement Jameer Young for Julian Reese to kick out to. It's really an awesome player that we really needed. And Kevin Willard has said Kaiser's one of the best shooters in that he has seen just come into college basketball. And he also said Deshaun Harris-Smith was one of the best players he had in terms of talent. He said it was the most talented player he has ever had coming into a college basketball program. And he's been coaching college basketball for a while now. So for him to say that about Deshaun Harris-Smith is a pretty cool thing. And then, of course, Jonathan Lamoth was also a highly recruited guy, a 4-star that is a guard that is expected to do some big things down the road for the Terps. So overall, the star-studded class, having 3 guys that are returning that were 3 of our best players, arguably from last year. I mean, Jameer Young and Julian Reese, I could say pretty safe that those are 2 of our best players. Dante Scott, you could say he's the 3rd best player from last year. You could also mix in Akeem Hart. But to have those 3 guys come back and then add in this new, fresh talent, I have huge expectations for this Terps team. And I expect the Terps to be a top 25 team. I think we are just outside of it right now, but I expect us to move into that top 25 range, and I expect us to make the tournament. Maybe we can get to like 24 wins, and I think we can be a top 6 seed in March Madness. Obviously, the goal is just to get into March Madness. If we get in, we're happy, but seeding obviously matters in March Madness. even though there's a ton of upsets. But I expect us to get into that top 6 seed in March Madness. And then I also want to say we have a lot more depth this year. Guys like Jordan Geronimo, our transfer from Indiana, who's a freak athlete. I don't expect him to start. I expect Kaiser to start at the 3, but we'll see what happens. Another reason I have huge expectations is because of how Kaiser performed in the Italy trip. He did some really good things, so we're expecting big things from Kaiser. And Jordan Geronimo, I've heard he's the best athlete we have. He's coming off the bench, and he's really versatile as a player. A guy like Noah Bachelor, maybe he can step up and make a leap from one of his first years or his first year in college basketball. And then Long, of course, you can't forget about him, Jahari Long. He's a really solid player last year, Jahari Long, and he does some really good things. So we have some depth off the bench. And, of course, I talked about Jonathan, the other freshman, who's going to provide depth. So we have some depth off the bench. We have some really good pieces in the starting lineup. So I expect the Maryland Terrapins to do some really good things this year for the basketball program. The Terps need to start their season right against this St. Mary's team. I'll talk about that after this ad from FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. So go ahead on to FanDuel if you want to get bonus money, free money. Go ahead and bet $5 and sign up on an NFL team to win. Whether you're a Commanders fan and support the DMV, or you're a Chiefs fan and you want to go pick the Chiefs to win next week, or the Chargers, or whoever you like, whoever the team you think the best team has a chance to win, go on to FanDuel and bet their money line for $5, and you can get big bonus bets with $150 in bonus bets with any $5 winning money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. We're going to talk about the spread for the Maryland Terrapins game. The spread is quite high, but if you have high confidence in the Maryland Terrapins, go ahead on to FanDuel and bet them to cover the spread for tonight's game against St. Mary's. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. It's imperative for the Maryland Terrapins to start this season right against an okay St. Mary's team. Maryland versus St. Mary's, 7 o'clock on BTN Plus, not on TV, but I will make sure to give you everything you need to know if you're not able to watch the game on BTN Plus. But feel free to go ahead and get a BTN Plus subscription if you would like to watch the game, because I think it's going to be a really cool game to see. I'm just excited to see what this team looks like. It's not a completely new look team, but there's just a bunch of different pieces like Deshaun Harris-Smith and Jamie Kaiser. I want to see the freshmen perform. I want to see how Jameer Young comes out. I just want to see a bunch of different things coming on today. But I think it's so important for the Terps to start this season right. We're supposed to beat this team easily. We are. I'm going to talk about the spread later. I'm not going to hide it. We're huge favorites. We're huge favorites against this St. Mary's team. We're supposed to handle them pretty easily, and we're supposed to win the game big. But if you guys had your TVs on last night, if you have your ESPN notifications on or score notifications on, whatever app you use to get sports news, or scrolling through Twitter or whatever, you might have saw that Michigan State lost last night. 4th-ranked Michigan State, one of the best teams in the country according to the college basketball analyst. 4th-ranked Michigan State. Michigan State was in a similar spot as us in terms of they were ready to start basketball season. Their fans were ready to start basketball season. I talked to the Locked On Spartans guy when we did a crossover episode before the Michigan State football game, and he said, is it basketball season yet? And look how they started. You do not want the Terps to drop this game because they lost to James Madison despite their best player dropping over 30 points. You do not want to start the year like that. You do not want to have right off the bat a loss like that to already hurt your resume in March. Remember, every single game matters towards the end in building that March Madness resume. Obviously, you don't have to stay perfect. Nobody really will do that. And Michigan State will be able to get back into it. And they'll probably still be ranked next week, I would think. But you don't want to start the season like that. And I'm bringing up Michigan State because to know that it is possible to lose to this type of team. James Madison is better than St. Mary's. But James Madison is by no means a powerhouse that should beat Michigan State. Michigan State was huge favorites against JMU. But I bring it up to just say that it can happen. And so you don't want to start the year like that. Like I said, you're always fighting for that March Madness resume. And these games can come back to hurt you when you're first four out or first four in or whatever it is in the selection show. And you drop the game like this in a game that you really needed back at the end of the day for your resume. And then it can also always just help in terms of March Madness seeding, even if you're comfortably in the tournament. But I also think it's important for our freshmen to win this game. They're freshmen. We have 3 freshmen that could play this year, 2 that are supposed to start. Like I said, in Deshaun Harris-Smith and Jamie Kaiser, and then Jonathan should come off the bench and provide some really good minutes at the guard position. All 3 highly rated recruits, all 3 really good players. But at the end of the day, they never played college basketball. They've played high AAU ball for Team Takeover and Team Thrill and whoever they played for, AAU ball for. Those are 2 of the teams they played for. But they've never played this high college basketball. And maybe the St. Mary's team might not be, in terms of talent, might not even be the best group of players that they have faced. They've probably faced better players in the AAU circuit, to be completely honest. But this is still college basketball. Guys are stronger. Guys shoot better. Guys play a lot better defense. So it's important for us to start the game this season right for the freshmen to build up that confidence because we want them to have that confidence going into some of the really good teams we play later on, whether it's UCLA, whether it's a Villanova, or even a Davidson on Friday. So we want them to build up that confidence because confidence is key. So I think it's important for the freshmen to start right in college basketball this season because we want them to start having confidence to really be themselves and really know that they're able to do this at the college level. And I know they're a confident group of kids and they're really good players, but I just think it's really important to win this game in terms of them just getting off to the right start for the Maryland Terrapins. And then also, we can't underestimate the St. Mary's team because they have some good players. Dakota LeFew, point guard, averaged 13 points per game, one of the few starters back. George Tinley, 6'6", averaged 7.1 points per game, had 42 blocks last year with 26 steals. It's important for us not to underestimate this team and start this game right. Come out fast. Have the season start on the right tone because it's easy not to start on the right spot sometimes. So I think it's important for the Terps to start this year right, for resume later on, for start of the season confidence for everyone, and then also allow us to mesh and for Willard to find the right kind of units that he wants to use, the right lineups, get the rotations right, while also not having to fear about losing a game and also give some bench guys experience. You love to see those guys get in. Those guys don't get to play a lot, but I just think it's really important for us to start the season right. Obviously, we're expected to win, but it's not really a loss that we want to take early on or be one of those teams that get upset, especially last point, if we want to push to be a top 25 team early on, which we are. We're right outside of it. A lot of people, a lot of the experts, so-called experts, have us in their top 25, hovering around 25, 24, 23, 22 range. So for us to get into that, we're going to need to win this game pretty handily, which we are expected to do. Now let's get into some game predictions. Will the Terps cover the spread? What is the spread? I'll tell you about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute, like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I have been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Terps will win big against Mount St. Mary's. All right, let's get into these game predictions a little bit. The spread is 20.5. And to be completely honest about college basketball spreads, they are really hard to predict because especially when it's a game like this. It's a little bit different when Maryland's playing, let's say, Michigan State. That's the team we've talked about. Or Maryland's playing Indiana. Or Maryland's playing Purdue. It's a little bit easier to predict because the spread isn't so big and it's not supposed to be just a team that's supposed to win. You can have a better feel for kind of who to pick. But when you're playing a team like Mount St. Mary's, a team that you're better than by a lot of points, it is challenging to pick the team that's going to cover the spread because the spread is so many points. The Terps are favored by 20.5. It can so easily happen that Mount St. Mary's somehow finds a way to backdoor cover that and make it look close. But I am saying that the Terps will blow out Mount St. Mary's, my best guess, in that we win the game huge and cover that 20.5 point spread. Why do I think we do that? Number one, we are more talented. It's pretty clear. We just have better players, more talented players, and that's just how it is when you play some of these teams. We have a deeper roster. We have highly recruited guys, and it's going to be really hard for Mount St. Mary's to score, honestly, because they're a little bit smaller. They're not going to be as explosive, as quick. They're not going to be able to do the same things with their ball handling skills and their ability to get to the basket. It's going to be hard for them to score against a more athletic, longer, bigger Maryland Terrapin team. That's just kind of how it is when you play a Big Ten team and versus most non-Power 5 basketball schools. I mean, if you look at some of the schools in like the Big East and then you look at Gonzaga, obviously those are different. But some of the smaller schools that you play in college basketball, it's going to be hard for them to score it. And I think that's number one reason why we're going to cover is we're just going to out-talent them. And then we also look at St. Mary's roster turnover. They had a lot of roster turnover. I talked about their two returning players that are really good players in Dakota LaFew and George Tinsley. Watch out for those guys if you're watching the game. Those guys are solid players. But those are the only two starters they return. They have a lot to figure out. This team doesn't have – they have 3 new starters in that lineup, and just like we have some new starters in our lineup, we have 2 new starters. Well, so there are 3, but we bring in 2 starters that are 4-star recruits that are supposed to be some of the best players in the country eventually. But they only return 2 guys, so they're not experienced. And their first game is against a team like us. They don't even get a chance to match. Obviously, they practice and stuff, but playing a Big Ten team on the road at home is a lot harder to figure it out than just doing it at practice. And then, like I just said, we're also home. Home crowd's going to be behind us, and people are ready for basketball season, like I said earlier. So I know the Terps are going to come out with a lot of energy, really high defensive energy, especially I expect us to get out in transition and score points easy. And the energy of the first game is just something different. Even when it's not a big-time game like this, just in basketball, just the energy that these guys are going to have is just – I think it's going to be big time. So I expect us to come out with a lot of energy. I don't expect us to come out flat. And I expect us to win this game big and cover the spread. And then my last point is we have a deeper roster. Like I said it earlier, but I want to expand on this. We have guys that even when our bench is in, they would start right now for the Mount St. Mary's. And that's no disrespect for Mount St. Mary's. That's just what it is. So even if we have some of our bench guys in, I still expect them to win and put up points. That's when it gets tricky in college basketball. Sometimes Maryland might go up 29 points with only, let's say, 4 minutes left in the second half. That might be what it is, but maybe Mount St. Mary's is able to go on a short run against Maryland's bench. But no, I think Maryland has too many talented players on their bench this year, players that are fighting to stay in the rotation, and that's where the key comes in. When you're having players that know that they have a chance to play and this is their first chance to prove it, they go really hard, and it's a little bit different when it's later on in the season. Let's say it was March Madness and we were blowing out a team by 30 points and the bench gets in. It's a little bit different because they know they aren't going to still play the next game. And I'm not saying they wouldn't play hard in that situation, but the way that people are going to fight and that intensity they bring when they know they're fighting to be in that rotation is going to be pretty high out there. So I expect Maryland Terrapins to win, and I think that we cover the spread of 20.5 points. My final game predictions, it's hard to predict these scores, but I'm going to go with 89 to 66. 89 to 66. And the Terps cover pretty, not easily, but the Terps cover the spread. But thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure to like and subscribe because basketball season is here, and I know you guys are all super excited. Leave in the comments who you think will win the game and how much you think the Maryland Terrapins will win by. But thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.